Does your life ever feel like a treadmill you can't get off? You achieve something, buy something, experience something, and for a brief moment, you feel full. But then, inevitably, the hunger returns, whispering, "What's next? What's more?" What if this relentless hunger isn't for more things, but for more of your own self? Your desire for a new car, a bigger house, or another promotion has almost nothing to do with those things. It is a spiritual symptom in disguise. That gnawing feeling of not enough isn't a sign that you're lacking something on the outside. It's a profound signal that you've become disconnected from the infinite wellspring of worth on the inside. This is a deep and often hidden part of our shadow work. The exploration of the parts of us that refuse to land, that are addicted to potential and terrified of the ordinary. In this journey, guided by the wisdom of Jung, we will deconstruct the myth of never enough. We will look at your ambition and your desires in a completely new light, and we will uncover the soul hunger that lies behind the endless quest for more. This is not a lecture on minimalism. This is an invitation to finally get off the treadmill and find your footing on solid ground, the ground of your own sufficient self.
The modern world has a mantra, a quiet, relentless hum beneath the noise of our lives. And that mantra is one single word: more. More success, more experiences, more knowledge, more things. This is the modern mantra of more. It is fed to us by a culture of endless striving, the highlight reels of social media, the relentless drumbeat of hustle culture. And it has become the air we breathe. The internal experience of this mantra is a constant low-grade anxiety, an inability to savor the present joy because the mind has already leaped to the next acquisition. A life lived not in the moment, but in perpetual anticipation. A life on a treadmill. This is not a personal failing. It is a collective cultural agreement. An agreement that our value is conditional and must be constantly proven through the relentless pursuit of more. It is the engine that drives the entire system we've been exploring. Let me tell you about David. 45 years old, a marketing director at a successful firm. He had spent 6 months fighting for a massive new account. Late nights, missed dinners, endless stress. And then, he got it. The office celebrated, champagne was popped. His boss praised him in front of everyone. He felt the familiar, intoxicating rush of victory. That night, he went home, exhausted but buzzing. The next morning, he woke up in the gray light of dawn. The buzz was gone, and in its place, a familiar, hollow echo. The ghost of now what? Before he even had his first cup of coffee, he opened his laptop, already searching for the next target, the next mountain. The treadmill had started up again. This is the cycle. And at its heart lies a tragic case of mistaken identity. A profound psychological misunderstanding of our own hunger. This is where the wisdom of Jung becomes a lifeline. He would teach us that this external hunger for more money, more status, more experiences is almost always a projection of an internal emptiness. It is a case of soul hunger being misinterpreted by the ego. When we are disconnected from the self, that core of our being that holds our inherent worth and meaning, we feel a void, a deep psychic ache. The ego, in its brilliant but limited way, tries to solve this problem. It sees the hole and it tries to fill it. But it can only see the tools of the outer world, so it misinterprets the soul's cry for meaning as a desire for a new car. It misinterprets the soul's cry for connection as a desire for more followers. It misinterprets the soul's cry for stillness as a desire for the next vacation. We are trying to quench a spiritual thirst with sand, and we wonder why we are still so thirsty. David thought he was hungry for the next big win, but his soul was hungry for a moment of quiet, a moment of meaning, a moment of simply being. A moment to connect with the man who existed beneath the job title. This emptiness is the fertile ground in which the inner critic, which we spoke of, plants its seeds of not enough. It is the fuel for the comparison game, forcing us to constantly look outward to measure how much more we need to finally be happy. It is a vicious, self-perpetuating cycle. The emptiness creates the hunger for more. The pursuit of more leads to a life lived for the ego, further disconnecting us from the self. And this deeper disconnection creates an even deeper emptiness. And so, the treadmill speeds up. To break this cycle, we must stop trying to run faster. We must stop and ask a courageous question. What am I truly hungry for? If this hunger is a spiritual symptom, what is the disease? Why are we so prone to this grand self-deception? Why do we find it so hard to simply land in the reality of our own lives? To answer this, we must look at a powerful, often hidden archetype in the human psyche, a character who lives within many of us, who is in love with potential and is terrified of a rival. A figure Jungians call the puer aeternus, the eternal child. And it is this child's refusal to land that keeps us forever hungry and forever running.
Your hunger is not for more, it is for deeper. This is the great reframing that changes everything. It is where we move from judging our desires to understanding their source. Within the vast landscape of the human psyche, there are ancient patterns of energy and behavior that Jung called archetypes. And one of the most powerful and most prevalent in our modern world is the archetype of the puer aeternus, the eternal child, or, for women, the puella eterna, the eternal girl. This is a part of you that is in love with the sky and is terrified of the earth. It is the part that thrives on potential, on freedom, on new beginnings, on the intoxicating romance of what could be. But it has a deep, constitutional fear of commitment, of limitation, of routine, of the beautiful, messy, and sometimes boring reality of an ordinary life. The signature of this archetype is the relentless hunger for more novelty, more excitement, more options. Let me tell you about Sarah, a 40-year-old graphic designer. Her life was a beautiful collage of beginnings. She lived in 6 different cities in 10 years. She started countless creative projects, a podcast, a pottery business, a screenplay, all with immense passion for the first few months. And she had a string of intense, romantic relationships that all seemed to end around the 1-year mark, usually when the conversation turned to long-term commitment. Sarah saw herself as adventurous, spontaneous, free-spirited, but she came to me because she was exhausted, and beneath the exhaustion was a profound loneliness. She felt like a ghost drifting through the scenery of her own life, never truly landing, never building anything that lasted. The voice in her head was relentless. Maybe the next city will be the one.
Maybe this new project is my true passion. Maybe the next partner will be my soulmate. She was perpetually living in the future, a future that always promised a fulfillment that the present could never deliver. This is the puer aeternus. It is the part of us that refuses to land the plane. It circles the runway of its own life, forever enchanted by the view from above, forever terrified of the commitment of touching the ground. The hunger for more is its fuel to stay airborne. As long as there is a next best thing to chase, it never has to face the limitations, the responsibilities, and the profound, quiet beauty of the life that is already here. It is a flight from the finite, a flight from the real. This is not a moral failing. It is a psychological pattern. Often, it is born from a childhood where the child was not seen for who they were, but for their potential. Or a childhood that was so difficult that the fantasy of escape became a necessary survival strategy. But in adulthood, this strategy becomes a prison. A beautiful, open-air prison with a constantly changing view, but a prison nonetheless. Because you can never be home. You can never put down roots. You can never experience the deep, quiet satisfaction of going deep instead of wide. The hunger for more is a spiritual symptom of an unlanded soul. It shows up in our careers, as the constant job hopping, the endless search for the perfect role, the inability to commit to mastering one craft. It shows up in our relationships, as the fear of intimacy, the serial dating, the belief that the right person will solve all our problems. And it shows up in our daily lives, as a restless, distracted energy, an inability to sit still, an inability to be with what is without already planning what is next. This is a profound aspect of our shadow work, because the puer aeternus often lives in our blind spot. We call its restlessness ambition. We call its fear of commitment keeping our options open. We admire its love of freedom without seeing the profound loneliness that it creates. To begin to heal this is not to kill the eternal child. It is to become a loving parent to it. It is to acknowledge its fear and to gently, patiently begin the work of teaching it that the ground is a safe place to be, that there is a beauty in roots, not just in wings. So now we have a name for the hunger. We have a name for the restless pilot who refuses to land. The question is no longer, how do I get more? The question becomes, how do I learn to land? How do I find the richness that is already here, on the ground, beneath my own feet? That is the art of psychological containment.
To learn to land is to learn the sacred art of being here. It is the journey from the endless sky of potential to the rich, fertile ground of your actual life. The antidote to the hunger for more is not austerity or deprivation. It is a beautiful psychological practice that we can call containment. Psychological containment is the art of learning to find richness within the existing boundaries of our lives. It is the conscious choice to stop searching for the next better thing and to start mining the infinite depth of what is already present. It is how we gently parent the eternal child within us and teach it that the ground is safe. So, how do we practice this? We begin with the smallest, most ordinary moments. The first practice is simply called the savoring practice. It is a mindfulness exercise designed to train your mind to land. Tomorrow, I invite you to choose one simple pleasure: your morning coffee, a piece of chocolate, a song you love. And for 5 minutes, just 5, give it your entire, undivided, loving attention. Let's use the coffee again. As you drink it, notice everything:
The warmth of the mug, the steam rising, the dark color. When you take a sip, close your eyes, just for a second. What do you taste? Bitterness? Richness? Feel the liquid in your mouth, the warmth as it goes down. If your mind wanders to your to-do list, as it will, gently guide it back to the sensation, back to the taste, back to the warmth. In this moment, you are teaching the Puriturness within you a profound lesson. You are teaching it that profound pleasure does not require a plane ticket. It does not require a new purchase. It is available right here in this simple, ordinary cup. You are teaching your mind to stop flying and to land in your own senses. The second practice is about anchoring the mind in the present. We can call it gratitude as an anchor. The hungry mind is always focused on what is lacking. The practice of gratitude is the conscious act of shifting your focus to what is present. It is the practice of landing the mind in the here and now. Let's think about David, the marketing director from before. His mind was a machine for finding the next target. He began a simple practice. Every night before sleep, he would write down just one thing from his day that he was grateful for. Not a big achievement, but a small, specific sensory detail. His first entry was, "The feeling of the sun on my face for 2 minutes when I walked to get lunch." Another was, "The taste of the apple I ate this afternoon. It was so crisp." Another, "The quiet of the house after the kids were in bed." At first it felt forced, but slowly something began to shift. He was training his mind like a muscle, training it to look for the gold in the ordinary, not just in the extraordinary. His baseline of contentment began to rise. The treadmill of his hunger began to slow down, because he was learning to feed his soul, not just his ego. The final practice is a strategic choice, a conscious decision to fight the siren song of the new. It is the commitment to depth over breadth. The Puriturness loves breadth. It wants to taste everything, start everything, meet everyone. The journey of integration requires a commitment to depth. Choose one area of your life, just one. A skill you are learning, a relationship that matters, a long-term project. And for the next month, make a conscious vow to go deeper with it instead of seeking a new, more exciting alternative. If you are learning the guitar, instead of browsing for a new instrument to buy, commit to mastering one single difficult chord. Stay with the frustration. Stay with the process. If you are in a relationship, instead of wondering if there is someone better out there, commit to asking your partner one deeper question and truly listening to the answer. This practice is the direct antidote to the flightiness of the eternal child. It teaches that part of you that true satisfaction, the deep, resonant, soul-level satisfaction, comes not from the thrill of the start, but from the rich, complex, and often difficult journey of staying, of going deep, of building something real. These practices, savoring, gratitude as an anchor, and depth over breadth, are the tools of landing. They are how you build a runway for your soul. They are how you begin to find the infinite universe that is hidden in the ordinary. This is the path to discovering the sufficient self, the part of you that is already whole, already complete, already enough. When you are rooted in this self, the world of more loses its hypnotic power. You can still enjoy things, you can still have goals, but your sense of worth is no longer dependent on them. You are finally home.
The treadmill slows. The frantic search for more begins to lose its hypnotic power. Not because you have renounced the world, but because you have started to arrive in it. The journey we have been on is a profound one. It is the realization that the source of our deepest dissatisfaction is not an empty bank account, but a starved soul. It is the compassionate understanding that the restless part of us, the eternal child, is not a flaw to be fixed, but a scared part of us to be gently parented and taught that the ground of our own life is a safe and beautiful place to land. This is the great shift, the turning from the outer world of acquisition to the inner world of being. And what we discover in this quiet turning is the sufficient self, the part of you that was never hungry, the part of you that has always been whole, always been complete, always been enough. When you are rooted in this self, the world of more can still be enjoyed, but it no longer owns you. You can still pursue goals, but your sense of worth is not tied to the outcome. You can still appreciate beautiful things, but you do not need them to feel valuable. Your center of gravity has shifted from the shifting sands of the external to the solid ground of your own internal being. This is the great shift, the turning from the outer world of acquisition to the inner world of being. And what we discover in this quiet turning is the sufficient self, the part of you that was never hungry, the part of you that has always been whole, always been complete, always been enough. When you are rooted in this self, the world of more can still be enjoyed, but it no longer owns you. You can still pursue goals, but your sense of worth is not tied to the outcome. You can still appreciate beautiful things, but you do not need them to feel valuable. Your center of gravity has shifted from the shifting sands of the external to the solid ground of your own internal being. This is not a final destination. It is a new way of walking. A way of walking where the richness of the journey is found not in the distant horizon, but in the feeling of the earth beneath your own feet. So as we close this exploration, I invite you to one small act of landing. Identify one area where the hunger for more shows up most powerfully in your life. Your career, your travels, your relationships. And for today, just for today, instead of feeding it or distracting from it or judging it, simply sit with the feeling of that hunger for 2 minutes. Close your eyes. Don't fix it. Acknowledge it with a gentle curiosity. Breathe into it. This is the first step in learning its true name. It is the first step in feeding your soul what it is truly hungry for, your own compassionate, loving attention. But what happens when this hunger is not just a general restlessness? What happens when a huge, central part of our identity, a role we have played for decades, is suddenly taken away, leaving not just a hunger, but a vast, silent, echoing void? For many, this is the experience of the children leaving home, the collapse of the parent persona. In our next journey, we will step into this sacred, painful silence and explore the profound spiritual passage of the empty nest.